What up, friends? We are Fluxin' and Flowin', and today we're going to be reviewing Poppy's newest album, Flux. This is Poppy's fourth album overall, continuing the harder experimentation that she tried out on I Disagree. You might remember that I really loved the experimentation and growth that she presented on her previous record, sort of exploring the Moriah behind the Poppy persona. The combination of electropop, kawaii metal, and new metal was really fresh for the time, and you do see some of that experimentation continue on here. Admittedly, the instrumentals are a bit more rudimentary this time, going for a more pop punk, alt rock, and grunge aesthetic. They're still well done, and the album is fine. It's just not as thrilling as what she's experimented with before. The opening title track, Flux, sums up what you'll be getting on this album: some super catchy choruses and some punchy, punky riffs. It's honestly a pretty great opener, with that noise intro leading us into the crunchy and driving guitar and bass. The verses have that subtle dark sound that mesh well with the louder chorus, and what a chorus it is. There's some great vocal tones all over this track, although I really do wish that her vocals were turned up a bit in the mix during the verses. The lyrics also sort of express this dynamic, showing how she's been through some shit, but she just has to keep moving forward and trying to be her best self. Pop punk banger alert with Lessen the Damage. The super fast-paced riffs have the energy that you need for a song like this, and Poppy's vocals have a nice balance of light and intense. This would honestly be right at home in the 90s. Punchy bass lines, a nice guitar solo, good screams, and a great bridge. Like, what more could you really want? It's a perfect self-confidence album. Like, Poppy's the only one in control of her life. So Mean is another catchy punk track, kind of akin to bands like The Living End in a way. Some sweet vocals, she's trying to keep those electronic influences alive before the bridge, and some pretty tongue-in-cheek lyrics about trying to grow from your past self. It is a bit simple, and the verses aren't as fun as the choruses, but it's honestly not a bad track overall. On the level, however, I'm not really into this one as much. The verses aren't bad, and they do have a chill flow to them, but the instrumental is just noticeably less energized here. The chorus is also probably one of the biggest misses on the entire album, feeling uninspired on a track that was already a bit too mellow to begin with. I don't mind slow songs, of course, it's just this one just felt bland. The harder breakdown segments are also pretty jarring, and they just don't really fit the track's vibe very much. However, I do like the sort of regrettable love song angle that the lyrics are going in, being cautious but also happy to finally be in love again. Hysteria does that whole slow build-up thing better. It kind of reminds me of something that would be on like her Poppy Computer or Am I a Girl eras. Nice twinkling synths and twangy guitars are a pretty awesome backdrop to her very melodic vocals on this track. The whispered segments also add a sense of weight and mystery to the song overall, despite its more upbeat nature. That wailing outro full of guitars, noise, and screams, like what a culmination of sounds that is. It has a subtle darkness to it though, seemingly coming from maybe her abuser's perspective, especially in the line, "Little girl with something to prove must be what I like about you." This makes those lyrics about hitting, physical abuse, and not being able to control their emotions pretty damning on our subject here. This will also continue from a story perspective in the next track. That being Her, which is probably one of the most grungy and like Nirvana sounding songs on the entire record, especially in those verses. I also get some Green Day Brain Stew vibes with how sludgy the verses are compared to the more melodic chorus. It does a good job at filling the space with relatively few instrumentals, and I like the combination of heavy and smooth energy going on here. I love the addition of the screams to that last chorus, giving the song a sort of battle cry nature, and that's pretty fitting considering this track really just seems like a big fuck you to Titanic Sinclair, who basically used to control everything about Poppy's life back in the day. So, especially coming off of that last track, like, this one's pretty good. Bloom is a weird mix of more low-key vocals, but more heavy-handed guitar and drums. The structure to this one is fairly odd, not really having a bridge, and the verses are arranged in a slightly different order. The chorus is okay, although it is slightly underwhelming coming off of the verses before it. Overall, I feel like this track just feels like it has a lot of wasted space. Like we're supposed to have like a weird synth come in or something, but it just never does. However, I do really like the lyrical angle she's going with here, talking about growing up too fast and comparing herself to a flower that blooms prematurely. There's a bit of a post-punk angle too, as strange as it seems, with the droning guitar and bass and the sort of hollow nature of the drums. It has a nice aesthetic to it, and the somber progression in the chorus thanks to the keys is really nice. It has a spacey and longing nature to it that makes it pleasant to listen to, although I can't say it really does much that makes me want to come back and revisit the track. The lyrics are pretty simple overall, although I do like the picture that it paints about how you're with someone who just doesn't really care about you or your well-being, and how that can rub off on your own mindset of yourself. A somber strum of the guitar on Never Find My Place is what ends this album. Like Hysteria, there's a nice build-up to this track, showing Poppy's eagerness to break away from all the things that was holding her back and start living for herself. The casual introduction to the drums provides a pretty driving beat, and it has the same energy as something like AWOL Nation's Stop That Train. It's a great way to provide a powerful yet melodic end to the album. Flux is a solid addition to Poppy's catalog, albeit a pretty safe one as well. It's not as experimental as I Disagree or even Am I a Girl, and it kind of retreads ground that we've already seen in rock and pop punk history. Granted, she still delivered solid performances, and the instrumentals were tight and focused despite being kind of par for the course. I was just hoping for something a little more experimental. Maybe a different and unseen combination of genres, a concept album even, just something to switch it up a little bit next time. I'm feeling a decent 7 on this album. Of course, we do have to talk about album covers on this show, and this is honestly a pretty great album cover. She's been going for that sort of black and white, edgy aesthetic lately, and this is just another fine addition to that. The sort of grid paper background with the sound wave and her kind of molding into that sound wave in the background, like, it's a cool aesthetic, I really like it, fits the album's sound, don't have any problems with it, to be honest. Of course, those were just my thoughts on Poppy's newest record. What did you guys think? Did you actually think this was a good progression of the I Disagree sound, or did you also feel it was a bit samey and not as engaging? Let me know. Be sure to like, comment, subscribe, ring the bell if you want me to flow. That doesn't make any sense. But until the next one, farewell.